Good morning, Warriors. Hope everyone's doing well on this Saturday morning. Welcome to the 1% Club. Welcome to Vigor Warriors Channel 2. And hope you guys are on your purpose, staying on your plan. We are over 550 some days, and I think it's 73 days of monk mode, and doing great. So we're going to do a couple probably today. We'll probably do one now and one a little bit later. But this one's going to be on another one of the commandments. Now, this may seem like it's not one that's really connected to retention or anything like that, but there is a lot of connections to retention and to self-control and those type of things. So the one we're talking about, and I'll shift my thing a little bit here, is the idea of honoring your mother and father. Now, why is this important? Well, I believe that we have a huge issue in our society. And part of the problem, the temptation, and the things that are happening to a lot of young people especially, is a result of the fact that they don't have a good, strong parental foundation. And maybe they have one parent, maybe they have no parents, and they have no clue the parents are. Now, they can't, obviously the person can't do anything about that if they don't know who the parents are. But what you can do is, as a young person, recognize how important it is to have a mother and a father. In our society, people unfortunately are even rewarded for not having dads or moms and those type of things. But this goes back to the whole idea of self-control and teaching people to do things that are the right things for our society. And if you don't have a mother and father, you can't really understand those type of lessons when you're younger. Now, you may learn those as you get older, but most of our learning starts with observation or modeling. And you'll see this happening a lot with things that you saw as you were growing up. Now, you don't realize it because you're very young. But the idea then is that you will eventually see how important it is, because you'll start doing some of those behaviors that really are just like your mom and dad. And I noticed this a lot with myself as the years went on. I did some behaviors, and sometimes my wife or kids had to point it out that I was actually doing something that grandpa did. And so when you look at this, it's really important to understand how much of your early learning comes from your family and comes from things that you learn. And if you don't have that, you can be stunted for a while until you realize, well, I need to figure this out. And I think when you see a lot of the behaviors now, you see behaviors in academics, in a school, in a classroom, you see behaviors in a dating world, and you see behaviors in the work world and athletics. You'll see that a lot of people are missing that. And so we need to understand that. And I think certainly it starts when people are together in relationships and they recognize the mother and the father, and they cultivate those relationships. Now, I think that's part of the issue. But once you know your mother and father, it's really important not to judge them, not to look them at a negative type of a way, because what you're doing is you're kind of hurting the very essence of how you were born. And this person who helped give you life, male or female, you need to kind of learn from this person things that are good, and then some things that the person does that are wrong. And it's a great learning tool to understand that. Now, from a religious and a practical standpoint, honoring your mother and father means that you're basically honoring the people who brought you into this world. And that creates a lot of self-control. Even though you may be angry in the situation you're in, it's important to recognize that these individuals, the mom and the dad, brought you into this. And so it's important then to recognize and respect that. And a lot of times we don't do that, and that just leads to other issues that we have. Now, how does retention play into this as well? Well, the whole idea of retention is the idea of self-control. that you are delaying gratification, instant gratification, for something more long term. And that's what brahmacharya, that's what Sufism, a lot of these type of things do. So when we really examine this, the same thing applies with the commandments. And this commandment's in there for a reason, because you were created by your mother and dad. And a lot of your initial learning comes from there. Now, is every parent perfect? No, of course not. Even though we may think we are, we're not perfect. And so what ends up happening is that a lot of times these behaviors that you do, your son and daughter may look at this in a negative way, may not like it. You may, I've seen lots of, unfortunate situations with moms and dads and kids. But it doesn't mean that you still shouldn't honor your mother and father. Because what ends up happening is that then when you become a parent at some point, then you're going to struggle with the same type of situation on the reverse side. And what comes around always goes around. It just takes some time sometimes, but eventually it will. And you don't really want to be on that side of the fence, experience the same thing that you did when you were a parent. And for those out there who are deadbeat dads, it's a shame, my friend. And never be that way. Always take responsibility. A warrior always takes responsibility for what they do. And so whatever you end up doing and having a child, take responsibility for that, because that's important to recognize. And it's important for that child who's got to grow up with a mother and a father, knowing who those two are and honoring those two. You can't honor a mother and father if you don't know who they are. And that's not the child's fault. That's the parent's fault. And so you need to kind of think about all these type of things. Now, like I said, why is this important? Why do we talk about this in terms of retention? Well, guys, it all goes back to the same old thing. It's a matter of self-control. It's a matter of saying, even though I may not like the position I'm in, I need to always honor my mother and father. And I do recognize the sacrifices they made to get me to the point where I'm living in this world. And that by itself deserves a lot of credit, because a lot of those times you don't know what the situations were. And I've seen many cases where parents give up their children and they put them in foster homes. And I've talked to these kids, I've helped out on some of these places. And to me, it's really a real unfortunate shame when those type of things happen. So I think when you sit there and look at this, you have to kind of understand that it's important to recognize how important the parents are in the type of situation you need. So when we look at this type of situation, keep in mind that as you decide what you're going to do as, in your retention plan, if you're going to have children, realize it's important to be there for them, because you want them to be able to honor you and your spouse, because that's the right, proper thing to do. And I know that in this world, people are different viewpoints, and they change their viewpoints, and they think they don't need a male role model or a female role model, and that's exactly wrong. Males and females need both. And a lot of times when it comes to the females, if the females do not have a strong male role model, then they have really a jaded viewpoint of men. And if a male does not have a strong female role model, then when they go into dating and other situations, they do those behaviors, because you copy your behaviors from when you're born. You copy those, and all of a sudden, those are the ones you use. Now, you may recognize it at some point, or you may not. You may go through your whole life doing the same behavior, not realizing this is the same thing that my mom and dad did. And we go back to that modeling. And this is why it's important to honor and understand your mom and dad and what they did and what they did good for you, and look at the adjustments you need to make. Because if you do the same things, then you're going to have the same result. And that's something that you may want or you may not want. And so honoring your mother and father becomes more than just a commandment that means nothing. It's obviously a very spiritual thing, because you are honoring your God, because your God created you, and two people responsible for creating you should deserve a lot of respect. Now, did I do all that? My parents have passed away. a while ago. But did I do that all the time? No. And I do feel bad for that at times. I certainly did not recognize that commandment when I was younger. And, certainly, with things with my grandparents and my parents, I should have probably done better. Hopefully I've done better with my kids. But all you can do is try to set up a situation in which you do the best you can. And I think as I'm doing the journey I'm doing right now, those type of things come out better. And I'm hoping my kids see that as time goes on. So once again, guys, honor your mother and father. It seems like a not that important of a commandment, but it really is, because once again, it goes back to self-control. It goes back to honoring your creator and also the two people responsible for your creation in this world. All right, until next time, guys, battle on!